G'day, welcome to 5 Minutes with Fitzy over the interweb, and Peter Fitzsimons joins me now. Hello, Fitzy.
James, how are you?
I'm excellent. Where in the world are you?
I'm in the little office next to the gym where I work out. Did you meet Des and Troy?
Oh dear, your two best mates. Looking
Leave
great.
me in.
Okay, so are you ready?
I'm ready.
The Anthem, the Rugby League State of Origin, Game 1, Adelaide Oval.
Yep.
Anthem. First it was in, and then there was a decision from nowhere last week by the NRL to scrap it, and only a matter of hours later, it was back in. What have you made of the whole thing?
I want to take a Dennis Lilly run up to this whole thing. Okay, just stay with me on this because there's the anthem, there's kneeling, there's the whole thing. 35 years ago, I was living in Italy, and I couldn't help but notice that I was living in northern Italy, and all the northern Italians were telling jokes about the southern Italians in the same manner as at the time we used to tell Irish jokes. And so anyway, I was at this dinner party. They were all telling southern Italian jokes, and I thought, all right, I'll adapt an Irish joke and tell it about the southern Italians. So, I tell the joke and I pause, nothing, absolutely nothing. Because the answer was, and I learnt my lesson, it's for them to tell, to make, assumptions or tell stories about southern Italians. Bloody well not for me, none of my business. And I backed out quietly, okay, this is not for me to do. In a very similar manner, or tangential manner, I'll say this. We are at an interesting time in Australian history where we've got anthems and we've got, taking a knee, kneeling. It's all in the air for sport. And both are involved with the first people of the First Nations that have been here for 65,000 years, okay? And when we white fellas presume to make announcements for them, for what's good for them and what we think about taking a knee in the anthem, it's not our territory to go in hard on this. So my dear friend, and he is my dear friend, Nick Farr-Jones, a couple of weeks ago on the issue of the Wallabies taking a knee, Nick says, there's no racism in Australia. Okay, Nick, this is not, that may be your experience. We white men very rarely never suffer racism against us. So saying there's no racism in Australia, it may work for you, it doesn't work for everyone. And if some of the Wallabies wanted to take a knee, that is their perfect right to do so. And if you don't want to take a knee, that is your perfect right. Similarly with Brad Fittler, who I admire, who's our colleague, who's one of the good guys, and he is one of the good guys. That's what that's part of his shtick. He's a very good bloke, and I think people respect him for that. But when he was being interviewed by Davina Smith, I think a couple of days ago, when he goes into, the anthem, this has nothing to do with us, when they may have their views, but from now on, none of my players, we're rugby league players first, and we're not going to be saying anything about the anthem. I respectfully submit, Brad, that's not your call. There are more things important than being a rugby league player. Being an Australian is one of them. And for many of your fine players, being people of the First Nations, I think if they choose to say something about the anthem, and when you're asking Indigenous men to sing, for we are young and free, that is an absolute direct denial of the truth that the Indigenous people, the people of the First Nations, have been here for 65,000 years. And we know people like Latrell Mitchell, who's injured at the moment, not there, but he feels strongly enough about it that he refused to sing it last year. Good luck to him. That is his perfect right. And I respectfully submit that if your players choose to speak on such an important matter, that is their right. And it's not for you to say, we're not doing this, we're rugby league players first, we're here to do a job. Actually, there are more important things. I understand why Brad Fittler wants to do that, but on some issues, you just say, listen, this is not for me to make an edict on.
And I guess we can assume that those Indigenous players in the New South Wales team, and perhaps the other team, the Queenslanders as well, will choose not to sing the anthem on Wednesday night, Peter. But in Brad's defence, the timing of the announcement by the NRL, talk about leaving it late. We're talking about a handful of days out and then backflipping on the decision. That turns the story. It already becomes a big story by making the initial announcement, and then it snowballs into something enormous. And this all in the middle of a camp where you've got players just arriving from grand final duty. Things are in chaos compared to the usual State of Origin series. So I can appreciate from a coach's perspective, the last thing you need is a political debate like this. It's putting its head up 5 days out from the Origin series opener.
I totally agree. You know, the announcement was curious that it was so close to the Origin. It would have been better to have been slipped in a press release 2 or 3 months ago. Nobody would have noticed. Yep. But I can absolutely understand why Brad wants that and wants nothing to do with that with his team. And I'll say similarly, and this is even more sensitive, okay? So this will go for longer than 5 minutes, but I'll say similarly, I'm in a minefield here, but Dave Rennie, the Wallaby coach, I think he's done a great job, no doubt about it, and he's most welcome. And about 5 or 6 years ago, or 7 or 8 years ago, whenever it was, when Robbie Deans came, I said, for Christ's sake, we don't want an All Black coaching the Wallabies. This is outrageous. Well, I was wrong, and Robbie did a great job and turned into one of my best mates. Similarly, okay, David Rennie, they looked around the world, who's the best for the job? It is Dave Rennie, okay, and he's got the job, and I wish him well. But when the time came to make an announcement on taking a knee, whether they will or they won't, Dave Rennie is a New Zealander and a proud New Zealander, and good luck to him. It's not for him to speak for the players on that sensitive issue. When we're dealing with Australian matters, and this is an Australian matters, our black and white history, for me, that was the role of the captain, if any, to say what the players had decided, but it was not for Dave Rennie. Anyway, I won't say what do you think. This is certainly what I think.
Well, he's the coach and the new one, so I think there's no doubt he's looking to try and be the man taking control of the entire situation.
But there are some issues that go beyond sport, and this is one of them. Why did we admire Peter Norman so much? Because of supporting the black athletes, the black American athletes in the 1968 Mexico Olympics, and he's still revered 52 years later, because there were some issues bigger than sport, and that was one of them.
It's a debate that'll rage and probably pop up again same time next year as well, Peter. Always good fun.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That's 5 minutes with Fitzy.